You ever wonder why more and more games feel like soulless garbage, cash grabs? Why they don't nearly reflect the artistic integrity of games that were made over 20 years ago? Even though the technology we have today should, really be streamlining the process, giving developers more legroom to focus on stretching their artistic muscles. Have you been wondering why the storytelling and dialogue in a lot of these games feels like, a response you would get from ChatGPT? Why games release so broken and buggy on day one that it feels like they weren't even play tested at all? Well, it's because they most likely weren't. There's this recent article that just released from Reuters, I think they're called, and the headline reads this: nearly 90% of video game developers use AI agents, Google study shows. A Google Cloud survey showed that 80% of video game developers are using artificial intelligence agents to streamline and automate tasks, as the industry focuses on optimizing costs following a wave of record layoffs. Remember Microsoft? What was it, like 8,000 employees got laid off? Conveniently at the same time they're marketing their big push for AI? Most of the respondents in the report published on Monday said AI was helping automate cumbersome and repetitive tasks, freeing developers to focus on more creative concerns. Which I don't see at all. And creativity, at least in the AAA space, at least from Western developers, has dropped off a cliff. It's nearly non-existent. Gaming publishers have turned to AI to deal with the industry-wide challenge of ballooning development costs and elongated creation cycles stemming from high fan expectations and intense competition. First off, who asked for the overblown development budgets? Who asked for decade-long cycles? And as far as fan expectations, I was under the impression that, gamers say take as long as you need. That we would rather have a complete experience over a broken, buggy launch. All of this just sounds like bullshit to me. The study conducted by Google and Harris Poll surveyed 615 game developers in the US, South Korea, Norway, Finland, and Sweden in late June and early July. Around 44% of developers use agents to optimize content and process information such as text, voice code audio, and video, rapidly enabling them to exercise autonomy and make decisions, the study showed. Oh, you mean throwing your game's entire story into ChatGPT. You mean using large learning models to deepfake voice actors and actresses. You mean outsourcing the coding process to AI and even using AI models to play test for you. Because that sounds like a more accurate, non-sugar-coated explanation to me. But the use of AI in video games is a highly contentious topic, with many within the gaming industry concerned over potential job losses, intellectual property disputes, and lower pay. I don't know about potential job losses because it's pretty much expected these days, and you can easily solve being able to pay developers more for their hard work by vetting people who are actually talented, focusing on smaller teams and smaller projects. Because newsflash, if Expedition 33 wasn't proof enough, you don't need hundreds of developers, thousands even, to develop a worthwhile experience people are, willing to pay. The reason we have all these games with 100 watered down gameplay mechanics that don't add to the experience is because you have hundreds of people working on the same game. The vision is not focused. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. I think Legendary Drops put it perfectly when people were complaining about Mafia the Old Country and not being able to swim in the water, is because every gameplay mechanic you add in, it has to be justified in order to be there. He was saying that, now you would have missions in the game that revolve around swimming in water. There's nothing wrong with a linear game that cuts out the fat in order to give players a more focused experience. It goes on to say that last year, Hollywood's video game performers went on strike over AI and pay issues. More than 10,000 people lost their jobs. The industry is expected to gain momentum this year and the next, with the launch of premium titles and new consoles seem to boost spending. Which I already know this is going to blow up in the faces of these AAA publishers. People aren't going to go out and buy new consoles. They're sticking to the hardware they already own. Many of us, including myself, have switched to PC, and we're playing a lot of indie games, not only because they're cheaper, but they're less taxing on performance. Either that or we're just not buying games at all anymore. A lot of us are just sticking to our backlogs. Some of us have hundreds of games already. And if you want us to buy your game, if you want to convince us that it's worth $60, $70, $80, I mean, 80 is already out of the question, at least for me. But if you want to convince us that your game is worth a damn penny, you're gonna have to compete with some of the greatest games ever made, just chilling in our backlogs. You know, the Elden Rings, the Baldur's Gate 3s, the RDR2s. Some of the greatest games released in the past decade not only look stunning by today's standards, they're just better in every single way. This is why indie games keep on winning. Not only are they a fraction of the price of a AAA game, they're not exclusive either, meaning they're not locked behind a $600, $700 paywall. Even Nintendo fans are getting sick of buying new consoles just to play a few games. Xbox is already, they already came over to PC. PlayStation, they're tailing right behind. We're no longer seeing huge leaps in new console generations anymore. Your new consoles, they're just being set up for failure. According to this survey, 94% of developers expect AI to reduce overall development costs in the long term. That even as roughly as 1 in 4 developers find it challenging to precisely measure the return on investment of their AI implementations, while costs associated with integrating the technology are also high. Around 63% of those surveyed expressed concerns over data ownership, as the legality around licensing and how and who exactly owns AI-generated content remains unclear. If you weren't convinced of a video game crash, the evidence here is damning. Just look at Google's Genie 3. Even though a lot of people were championing this Matrix-like AI system being able to generate entire worlds, trust me, you do not want something like this. Just past the veil, this is all soulless AI prompts in order to outsource the entirety of video game development to AI. We've seen so many attempts at this turn into failure over failure. Just look at Black Ops 7. After Black Ops 6 basically died because no one likes this AI bullshit, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. Look, nobody is excited for 7. Remember the 6 fingers? All the artwork that just looks so sloppy. You're telling me you couldn't hire an artist for that shit? If they're not willing to throw money at something like that basic, what makes you think they're going to do things like playtest, level design, balancing? Basically anything at this point? They want to pay the least for game development, but at the same time charge you $80 for a fucking video game. That's the very definition of wanting to have your cake and eat it too. I mean, come on. We have Fortnite with the Halo crossover, and the first thing you see, it sticks out like a sore thumb, is when you look at the marketing, these skinny ass Marines over the backdrop of the infamous bisexual lighting. It doesn't get more AI prompted than that. We have this big push for killing all legacy titles, which my theory is they know their older titles are more appealing, so they want to try and get rid of them. So in the future, the only option we have is to play their slop. It's funny, the Skyrim clone or whatever from Obsidian, that's bad, I don't even remember the name of it. It couldn't even compete with Oblivion from 2006. This new life sim game called Enzoi or whatever, dead, completely gone, player base, gone. Remember Assassin's Creed Shadows? Ubisoft tried to play it off like it was doing well by saying 3 million people engaged. And knowing damn well it was the worst Assassin's Creed game ever made. You can literally watch any cutscene from this game and it all sounds like it was thrown through a prompt by ChatGPT. Dragon Age the Veilguard? I mean, come on. The list goes on and on and on. I believe these games have already been heavily AI generated for the majority of their development in order to normalize this garbage AI slop. And now that they think we're used to it by now, that's when the mask starts to slip. If you've been wondering why AAA gaming has been feeling so soulless, why it feels like games aren't even being made by humans anymore, it's because they most likely aren't. I don't think we're gonna see a video game crash in general, because there's so many different sectors in the video game industry. Like, I don't see any indie games crashing over this or anything like that. But I do see in the near future AAA games being very, very niche, and we're already kind of seeing that now. Anyways, I thought this would be an interesting topic to talk about today. Ever since the lukewarm reception of Gamescom, well, not even warm, it was more like cold, it just feels like AAA fatigue has hit rock bottom. But that's it for me. I'll catch you in the next video. Later.